What happens when Hollywood's most iconic underdog walks into a lion's den dressed as a talk show studio? You're about to find out. And this one makes Rocky Vess Drago look like a friendly sparring session. When Sylvester Stallone showed up at The View, he thought he was promoting a documentary. Instead, he walked into an ambush. A televised takedown so brutal that producers were left scrambling, and security was put on alert. From the moment he stepped on set, Joy Behar had blood in her eye and a target in her crosshairs. What began with cordial smiles quickly devolved into one of the most jaw-dropping talk show confrontations in recent memory. But before we break down this powder keg of an interview, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments which celebrity could actually survive a one-on-one with Joy Behar. It was a brisk Manhattan morning as a sleek black SUV pulled up outside ABC Studios. Out stepped Sylvester Stallone, 77 years old, clad in his signature leather jacket, looking every bit the cinematic legend he had become over 5 decades. Beside him was Rebecca, his no-nonsense publicist, pacing slightly ahead as they moved through the maze of backstage corridors. "Remember, Sly," she said, tapping away on her phone. "This is a light segment. The doc, your journey, some nostalgia. Just keep it upbeat, keep it clean." Stallone smirked. Yeah, I've done this dance before. It's morning TV. How bad could it be?" He had no idea. In the green room, Stallone sipped a black coffee, half listening to the familiar sounds of live television audience clapping, cheerful music, friendly banter. He was at ease, comfortable, at home in the circus. Then a young producer appeared, headset tight, clipboard clutched. "We're ready in 5. Oh, and just a heads up. Joy's requested to do this segment one-on-one. Rebecca looked up sharply. "Just Joy. No panel. That's what she asked for," the producer said quickly before vanishing into the chaos. Rebecca didn't like it. Something felt off. But before she could act, another assistant ushered Stallone toward the blinding lights of the set. The audience erupted as Stallone stepped onto the studio floor, waving with that signature crooked grin. He looked every bit the crowd pleaser, riding the energy like a seasoned performer. At the center of the curved desk sat Joy Behar, expression neutral, eyes alert. Her black blazer was crisp, severe, and as she rose to greet him, her smile was polite, but not warm. "Sylvester Stallone, everybody," she said, gesturing to the guest chair directly across from her. "Thanks for having me." "Joy," Stallone replied, sinking into the seat, calm, collected, ready to talk legacy. He had no idea he was already in a fight. "So," Joy began, leaning in slightly, "you've got this new documentary, a whole film about your life. Must be nice, controlling the narrative for once." There was an edge to it, subtle, sharp. Stallone hesitated just a beat. "Well, I wouldn't call it controlling. Just telling it straight. The wins, the losses. Truth." Joy gave a small, tight smile. "The whole journey," she echoed. "Interesting. Because your journey's been controversial, wouldn't you say?" The audience stirred. This wasn't what they came for. Stallone's smile thinned. "I'm not sure what you mean by controversial." Joy shuffled papers like she was loading ammo. "Let's start with the early years," she said. "Living in your car. Couldn't book a role. Some would say you were just another failed actor clinging to a dream." The audience shifted uncomfortably. "I'd call it persistence," Stallone said, voice still calm. "Most actors struggle. I just didn't quit. Until Rocky." Joy cut in. "Suddenly you're an overnight success. But even that film, when you take a closer look, has its problems." Stallone blinked. "Problems?" Joy leaned back, watching him squirm. "Rocky's a white guy who gets his big break by going up against a flashy, arrogant black champion. Apollo Creed was basically a stereotype. Meanwhile, Rocky's the humble, hard-working everyman. Don't you think that plays into some troubling narratives?" Silence fell. The crowd froze. The only sound was the faint hum of cameras and the tension crackling in the air. Stallone sat forward slightly. His voice dropped, slower now. "I wrote that story from my heart. about struggle, about someone nobody believed in. It wasn't about race, but Joy wasn't finished. No, because to a lot of people watching, it felt like a familiar trope. The scrappy white hero beating the loud black villain. You don't think that message landed with a certain audience. Stallone's jaw tightened. The atmosphere had shifted completely. This wasn't an interview anymore. It was an interrogation, and he had just realized he'd walked into a trap. Stallone's jaw clenched. For the first time since sitting down, the easy charm dropped. His eyes narrowed, and his voice took on that gravelly edge that made him famous. "Hold on," he said coldly. "That's not just unfair, it's insulting." Apollo Creed wasn't a stereotype. He was layered, and Carl Weathers, he was my friend. We built that character together with purpose. A Joy didn't flinch. Or did you just package America's racial guilt into a feel-good underdog fantasy and cash the check? The accusation landed like a punch to the gut. The air went dead. Stallone's hands tightened around the arms of his chair. The famous temper, the one that had haunted his career in tabloids and backlot stories, was rising. "You're out of line, Joy," he said low and sharp. "Rocky was about heart, about grit. It had nothing to do with race." "Everything in America has to do with race," she shot back. "Especially when white men like you pretend it doesn't." Stallone blinked as if slapped. "White men like me," he repeated, voice rising. "Lady, I grew up in Hell's Kitchen. Poor. Broken home. I didn't ride into Hollywood on a yacht." Joy rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, spare me the sob story. You've made millions playing the same role. Tough guy with a heart of gold. And now what? We're supposed to cry for you because your childhood was hard." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Whispers buzzed. Phones lit up. Some looked away. Others couldn't. Stallone stood. The desk between them suddenly felt like a barricade. "You know what?" he said, towering over her. "I didn't come here to be lectured by someone who's built a career out of clickbait and outrage." Joy's grin widened. She had him. "Oh, now the tough guy's trying to scare me," she said sweetly. "How predictably macho." Stallone laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Intimidate you. I'm standing up. If that rattles you, maybe don't pick fights with people twice your size." Tension snapped across the studio. Camera operators hesitated. Control room lights blinked red with indecision. But Joy wasn't done, not even close. "Let's talk about your politics," she said, flipping a page. "You've made it pretty clear you lean conservative. Isn't that a little rich coming from someone who got rich playing blue-collar heroes?" Stallone sat again, slow and stiff. "My politics are mine," he said. "And for the record, working-class people can think for themselves. Can they?" Joy asked, leaning in. "When your support goes to politicians who gut unions. When you live in Beverly Hills but play men who can't pay rent. You don't know what I support." Stallone snapped. "And you damn sure don't know anything about my life." Joy calmly pulled out a printed article. "Actually, I do. You've donated to anti-union candidates. Funny, considering Rocky was all about punching up. Rocky was fiction," Stallone growled. "My donations are my business." "Not when they reek of hypocrisy," Joy replied. "You made hundreds of millions playing patriots and warriors. But when your country called, where were you? Did you serve?" Gasps. The temperature in the room plummeted. Stallone's face went pale. His fists clenched. "That's a line you don't cross," he said tightly. "My military status is not up for public dissection." "Why not?" Joy asked, her tone razor sharp. "You've played enough soldiers. Don't Americans deserve to know if their heroes ever actually served?" Stallone's voice dropped to a near whisper. "I had a medical deferment. Birth complications. I wasn't eligible." "How convenient," Joy sneered. "Or were you just worried about messing up that movie star face in a jungle somewhere?" That did it. Stallone surged to his feet, leaning across the desk. His face flushed red, voice thunderous. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "None," Sit down. Joy snapped. This is my show. You will behave accordingly. He laughed in disbelief. This isn't a show. It's a setup. You lied to get me here so you could take cheap shots. Joy's smirk was pure provocation. I ask the questions everyone else is too starstruck to ask. Accountability, Mr. Stallone. Try it sometime. Accountability for what? He demanded. For entertaining people. For working my ass off to build something from nothing. Joy didn't blink. For normalizing toxic masculinity, she said. For glorifying violence. For peddling outdated ideas of what a man should be. Your movies have damaged people, whether you admit it or not. The claim was so absurd Stallone actually laughed, but it was jagged, humorless. You're unbelievable, he said. Have you even seen my films? I've seen enough, Joy replied, flipping her notes closed. More than enough. Joe I. Rocky, Rambo, The Expendables. It's always the same story. Men punching their way out of problems, women reduced to trophies or damsels. It's outdated, primitive. Stellenden. Those characters face impossible odds and fight for what's right. They protect people who can't protect themselves. If that's toxic to you, maybe the problem isn't my movies. Joy leaned back, a smug glint in her eye, clearly enjoying the friction. So you're comfortable teaching young men that violence is the solution. Stale Omi. I'm uncomfortable with people like you twisting everything into something grotesque. My characters don't start fights. They end them. There's a difference between aggression and defense. Joy, tilting her head. Is that what you're doing now, Sylvester? Defending yourself? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like a tantrum from a man who finally got called out. The jab landed hard. The studio audience audibly winced. Some shook their heads. Stallone inhaled deeply, jaw clenched. Stellana, you know what, Joy? I've been doing this for 50 years. I've dealt with critics. Bad reviews. People who didn't get it. But this isn't criticism. It's character assassination. Joy coldly. It's journalism. Asking questions no one else dares to. Know your job is to inform and maybe entertain. Not ambush people under the guise of journalism. Joy's smile sharpened into a sneer.
Joe, I'm sorry.
Were you expecting another puff piece? Softballs about your latest sequel. Stellan, I expected basic decency, but clearly that's too much to ask. Joy's mocking human decency. From a man who built a career glorifying violence and cashing in on America's gun fetish. Stier, his voice hardening. Now you're just inventing things. I've never glorified gun culture. My characters use weapons to protect the innocent. That's not the same thing. Joe, right. And I'm sure the millions you've made in merchandising, video games, toy guns, had nothing to do with promoting violence to kids. Stallone stared at her, visibly trying to suppress a rising wave of fury. Stallone, you're unbelievable. You sit there, in your safe little chair, making your living tearing down people who actually build something. And you think that makes you brave. Joy, laughing bitterly, people better than me. You mean richer? More famous. That doesn't make them better. Stallone, I mean people who create, who take risks. Who put something meaningful into the world. Not spectators lobbing grenades from the sidelines. Joy's expression faltered. For the first time the cracks were visible. Joy, I've been in this business longer than you, Stallone. I've earned this seat. Stallone, by saying inflammatory things just to get a reaction. That's not earning it. That's just being a professional provocateur. Silence fell over the studio. The audience shifted uncomfortably. The production crew exchanged glances. Joy's knuckles whitened around her note cards. Joy, the voice shaking, you think you're tough. But you're just another aging action star trying to stay relevant. When's the last time you made something that actually mattered? Stallone chuckled, but there was no warmth in it. Stallone, when's the last time you said something on TV that helped anyone? All you do is stir up hate and division. Joy, I speak truth to power. Stallone quietly, no you don't. You take cheap shots at people for ratings. There's a difference between tough questions and bullying. Joy's face flushed. Joey, I am not a bully. I'm a journalist. Stallone. You're as much a journalist as I am a ballerina. Real journalists look for truth. You look for spectacle. It's lazy, and it's beneath even you. The words landed like a punch. Joy reeled silent, furious, exposed. Joy's jaw worked soundlessly, her mouth opening and closing as she searched, desperately, for something to say. Around the set, production assistants were murmuring urgently into headsets, receiving frantic directions from the control room. The tension was thick and volatile. How dare you? Joy finally spat, voice trembling with fury. How dare you come on my show and insult me? I'm not insulting you, Stallone replied coolly. I'm describing your behavior. There's a difference. Though I'm not sure you're capable of grasping it. Joy shot to her feet, her chair skidding back violently. That's it. I don't have to sit here and take this from some washed-up actor clinging to his 15 minutes. Stallone raised an eyebrow, unfazed. Washed up. That's your big retort. After all that venom, that's what you landed on. He shook his head with a faint smirk. I expected better from someone whose whole brand is being nasty. A ripple of discomfort spread through the audience. Viewers whispered to one another. Some held up phones, already recording what was fast becoming live TV infamy. Security, Joy barked, her voice cracking. I want him removed. Now, Stallone didn't flinch. He remained seated calm, almost serene amid the chaos. Because I stood up for myself. That's the solution now. Kick out the guest who won't be bullied. 2 security guards emerged from the edge of the set, unsure, hesitant. They exchanged glances, clearly uncertain about how to proceed. Remove him, Joy shouted, jabbing a trembling finger at Stallone. He's being disruptive and hostile. One of the guards, a graying man with a weary kindness in his eyes, stepped forward cautiously. Sir, he said gently, I'm going to have to ask you to come with me. The Stallone looked up and nodded with quiet dignity. No problem. You're just doing your job. He rose slowly, straightening his leather jacket. Every movement was composed, deliberate. A man at peace. Unlike the host now visibly unraveling before a live audience. You know what's sad, Joy? He said, turning as the guards flanked him. You had the opportunity to have a real conversation. About life, about art, about overcoming adversity. Instead, you chose cruelty. You chose pettiness. Don't lecture me, Joy shrieked after him. You don't know anything about me. What I've done, what I've built. Stallone paused, then turned slowly to face her one last time. You're right, he said quietly. I don't know much about you, but I know what I saw today. And it wasn't strength. It was bitterness. Spite. You tear people down and call it journalism. But it's not. It's just sad. The studio fell still. The words echoed in the silence like a verdict. Joy's face flushed a deep, angry crimson. Her hands gripped the desk so tightly her knuckles blanched. You're nobody, she screamed, finally losing all composure. You're a has-been who got lucky with one dumb movie 40 years ago. Stallone reached the edge of the set, then turned, looking back at her with something resembling pity. And yet, you're so threatened by this nobody that you tried to humiliate him on national TV. What does that say about you? It landed like a punch. Joy's mouth opened again, but no sound came out. All around, the audience sat in stunned silence. Some looked away. Others simply looked ashamed to be in the room. Then Stallone turned to them for the first time. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice calm and steady. I'm sorry you had to sit through that. You came here for a conversation, maybe something fun, maybe something meaningful. What you got was a meltdown, and that's not your fault. There was a moment of stunned stillness. Then, slowly, applause. It started with a few claps, then grew louder. A handful of people stood, then more, until nearly the entire studio was on its feet, giving Stallone a standing ovation as he walked off the set. Joy stared aghast, as the very audience she had relied on turned against her, cheering the guest she had tried to break. Sit down, she snapped. "Stop clapping!" But her voice was lost in the roar. If anything, the applause grew louder. Joy looked around in disbelief, her authority crumbling in real time. At the studio door, Stallone turned one last time, gave a small wave, and flashed that unmistakable, crooked smile. The applause hit its peak. From the back of the crowd, a voice shouted, "We love you, Rocky!" Joy stood frozen, surrounded by empty chairs, the sound of thunderous applause echoing in her ears. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every brutal second of her downfall. The same security guard who had escorted Stallone returned, approaching cautiously. "Ma'am," he said softly. "The producers want to know, are you ready to continue with the show?" Joy looked around. The cheering crowd, the crew's uneasy expressions, the reality of what had just occurred. Her lip quivered. For the first time in years, Joy Behar had nothing to say. "Cut to commercial," she whispered, just above a whisper, just loud enough to be heard. Cut to commercial. And with that, one of the most explosive meltdowns in talk show history came to a close. Joy Behar, once the unflinching queen of daytime TV, was left alone in the ruins of her own making. Meanwhile, Sylvester Stallone walked away with his dignity intact, the admiration of a studio full of strangers, and a new legion of fans who had just witnessed what grace under fire truly looks like. What did you think of this jaw-dropping confrontation? Have you ever seen a celebrity keep their cool so flawlessly under pressure? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that pull back the curtain on the most dramatic moments in entertainment.